Hi, hello, welcome back to Pittery Fiction, the place where we do not have the brains for literary fiction. This is Peter. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm gonna be doing something different. As I said in my first video, apart from reading, I really like writing as well. As writers, I think that we all oscillate between two mental states with our writing. We either love what we're writing, we share it with our friends, we talk about it all the time. We think our story is going to be the next big thing that will occupy the best-selling list, that will get us a six-figure book deal. Yeah. And today I'm gonna tell you how I got mine in my dreams. And the other state is that we hate our story. We think it's trash. We think that nobody's gonna want to read it. Every word is a struggle. We spend the nights crying and crying and crying, only to wake up the next day and have to face the blank page. All writers' biggest enemy. But we do it all over again. These are the two states of being a writer. I love only one of them, but you can't avoid the second one. Even when we're not writing, we think of our stories, of the worlds that we have created, how our characters will interact with each other, how they're going to war, how they'll fight, or how they are going to do stuff to each other. It's an everyday occurrence in my head, at least. As writers, we all have different processes in creating our own stories. And today I decided to make a series of videos about my process of how I create a story, how the first idea comes to my head, and how I develop it, and how I write it, and how I edit it into a full-fledged story. Because I find comfort in seeing other people's processes and to see that it's not that easy to create a story. Even if the story is amazing in its final state, it goes through an entire process before it gets to that. So I'm gonna share my step-by-step process of creating a story, and I decided to start with how I come up with a basic idea of my story, the one that can be described with three sentences: the beginning, the middle, and the end. The one that you give out to a person asking, oh, what's your story about? So not many specifics, not many details about the plot or the characters, just the basic idea that put my brain into action. Have you ever thought of writing a book and the story just did not come to your head? If the answer is yes, then maybe you should stop pursuing writing. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. As a person, I do not actively seek for the next story to write. Right now, I have three stories that I'm working on, either actively or they're in the back of my head and I keep adding details to it. I do not seek the stories seek me. Yeah. So welcome to the first video of the series where I will explain my story idea creation process, how my brain comes up with a story idea and how I work on it, with the first steps that I take to make the story more fleshed out before I begin the brainstorming process. They usually come to me like a spark or a gear in my head that did not work before, and it was fueled by an external stimuli, and suddenly it powered a projector in my head, projecting the story idea that I want to work on. And there it comes. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's the story idea wanting to land here. The stimuli, the thing that will put your brain into motion and come up with a story idea, can be literally anything. Like if you only take a walk up the park and look around, the way the waves move to the wind's command, a song that you listen to for the very first time, that strange building in your neighborhood that you do not know if it's inhabited or not, a conversation with a friend, or maybe that annoying friend that chews with her mouth open at dinner. They can really pose as the motive for the villain's actions. If I lived in a world with people that chewed with their mouths open, I would try to eradicate the human race as well. You will be surprised to know how inspiring it is to just Take a look around at mundane things that you see every day and do not really pay attention to them. Like if you go on a walk at the park and see a group of pigeons, my brain starts to think about the pigeons and how do they communicate? How do they decide on their next destination, where to fly to? Or is there strategy behind the selection of a person that they will poop on? Or I'm in the bus going to work in the morning, and this girl just sits on a window seat and her eyes are closed, her face is jammed on the glass window. And I just think, who is she? What does she do for a living? Is she achieving her goals? Is she Raven, the acid bath princess of the darkness? We'll never know. The idea can come very unexpectedly, and it's up to my head to interpret it in the best possible way. So the story can be entertaining and it means something to me and to other people. So the first thing that I do when the story comes to my head, I immediately take out my phone, open my notes, and write down the idea. I'm 100% sure that there are many, many ideas that I have come up with and were lost because I did not write them down. So that's my advice. Write everything down, even if you'd never use it. Maybe you can use it in a future idea. If I did write it down, maybe I would be the new J.R.R. Tolkien. Maybe I would be the new Brandon Sanderson. Maybe I would be the new Susan Collins. Or maybe I would be the new George R.R. Martin. Well, maybe I am him since I'm not writing. So, let's say for the sake of this video, to show you how I create my story idea, let's take a song for inspiration. As a Taylor Swift fan myself, I decided to select one of her songs for inspiration and create a story with you guys. Taylor's albums are full of songs that tell stories on their own, so it was a bit hard to select one for this video. But I'm a big Evermore stan, my favorite album is Evermore. I decided to narrow down to that album. I thought to myself, which of the songs inspires you the most? And when I listen to the album, the song that sparks story ideas every time is Ivy. Ivy is a song about heartbreak. It's mystical. It transports me in a forest with magical creatures in it. I think I can come up with a great story idea for this song. So let's see. So the first thing that I do is I isolate a specific part of the song or a lyric that can be the spark that I need to create my story. It can be a sentence, a phrase, or even just a simple word that can create the story in my head. Every time I hear the song, the sentence that sticks out, gives me the story idea is, and the old widow goes to the stone every day. This is the sentence that I will base my story on. When the line gets my attention, I start asking myself some questions that will give me more information about the story that I'm writing. So, for example, the old widow goes to the stone every day. Who is that widow? Why is she a widow? How long has she been a widow for? Why does she go to the stone every day? At what time of day does she go? And what is so special about the stone that she visits every day? These are the first stories that I will try to give answers to so I can get to know my story a bit better. So, first question, who is the widow? She can be a retired assassin, or she can be a young girl trapped in an old woman's body. She can be a river sprite. She can be the village's farmer. Or she could be the woman in the village that washes the dead bodies down in the river and getting them ready for the funeral, and maybe stealing something from the bodies, something precious. Now the next question, why is she a widow? Maybe her husband died of natural causes, or he died from a disease, or he was killed, or she killed him, or maybe someone else killed her husband, or he had a hunting accident and he died, or he was cursed and the curse killed him. The next question, how long has she been a widow for? Let's say since the day they got married, or let's say for the past year, or when she was very, very young, or for a decade, maybe. Next question: what makes the stone special? Maybe she can feel her husband's presence through the stone. Maybe the stone has been placed over her husband's grave. Maybe the stone guards a monster. Or maybe the stone works as a drug that alleviates the woman's pain and grief. Maybe the rock is her husband. Or maybe the stone is a monument that reminds people of the thing that killed the woman's husband. Or maybe even nothing at all. Maybe the stone is not special. Maybe it's just a stone. The next question is, why does the woman go to the stone every day? Maybe it's the place where her husband has been buried and she pays her respects every day. Or maybe she can feel her husband's presence by touching the stone and she needs it. Or maybe since the stone was placed over a trapdoor that holds a monster locked underneath, she visits it to see if the monster is still locked. Maybe that monster is what killed her husband and she wants to know that the village is safe. Does she go in the morning or does she go at night? Well, maybe he has a reason behind going at a specific time, or maybe not. Maybe, let's say, she goes every morning because she has a debt to pay and she's forced to do it in the morning. Or maybe she wants to go at night so no one can see her going. Or maybe it's not even important for the story. Or she has to perform a ritual and the daylight or the moonlight is necessary for it. As you can see, the possibilities are endless. So we can do literally anything with story. So let's select an answer for each question so we can build a path that will guide us through the story. So let's create the beginning of the story. Who is the woman? Let's say the woman is a river sprite and she met her husband and they fell in love. Her husband was a human and the sprites exiled her because of her relationship with the man. And so they live in the village together. Their relationship started going well and they got married. Why is she a widow? Let's say her husband was cursed and his family was cursed and so was he, and he ended up dying to that curse on the day of their wedding. The first questions have been answered, but I still need some substance, something to make me care for the story. So let's say that on the day of their wedding, the husband confessed to the woman about his family being cursed. And the curse was if he ever married his true love, he would rot like a leaf in the fall. Upon marrying his true love, because he thought it was worth it to marry that woman and risk getting killed because he did not believe in curses, so he believed that even if he died after marrying her, that it would have been worth it for that woman. So he confessed about the curse, they slept, and in the morning he was dead. So that gives me an interesting beginning that will hook the reader. And it also gives me a mystery that can be carried over to the end. So the way the husband died can work as a mystery for the reader to seek answers. And a great opportunity for a plot twist. Let's move on with the next questions. After her husband's death, his body was buried out in the forest and the stone was placed over his grave so the curse does not spread and make the village rot as well. And why does she visit every day? Let's say she did not want to visit at first because it was too painful for her, but after he was buried, she woke up the next day in the morning and her entire house was covered in ivy. Every part of the house that the ivy touched, it rotted. And so did her body, like the exact marks that the walls carried. She had identical ones on her body. So she ran to her husband's grave, panicked. It reminded her of the curse that the husband had described, and upon touching it, she felt herself transported and she went back to the final day that she had with her husband and the final moments that they shared, hugging each other and feeling all these emotions of love and affection and everything that led her to marry that man. And for a few seconds she can feel his warmth and she can feel that he's still with her. But after the few seconds pass, she is back at the forest in front of the grave, and the marks on her body are gone. When she goes back to the house, so is the ivy. So she understands that each time this happens, she needs to go to the stone, touch it, feel her husband, and then save herself from being rotten. So the next morning, the ivy appears again, and she goes to the stone and reverses the curse and goes back to her house. So every morning, she needs to do it before it's too late. With this idea, I have answered 3 more questions. Why does she go every day? What is so special about this stone? And when does she go? So that is the main point of my idea, the baseline of what is to come. However, before I move on with brainstorming the more specific parts of my story, I need a few more details. I have explained my main character's routine, how her life is before everything changes, before I move on to Act 2. So at the end of Act 1, something needs to happen that disrupts the woman's routine. It either puts the woman in danger or it puts her into action. So either the stone can just disappear or it can be unreachable. Something is covering it and the woman cannot touch it, or it simply stops working, or the stone appears at a different spot every day and the woman must perform a treasure hunt every day to find the stone and save her life. And then I need to know how the woman reacts to it. That, like, does she just give up and wait for her death? Or will she ask for help? Will she just try to find a solution on her own? If the solution requires sacrifice, is she prepared to do it? Is she willing to do it? All these questions will actually showcase the theme of the story, and it will give the character some agency, and it will show the character's traits and how likable or unlikable she will be. I personally want my character to fight for her life like she always did and persevere. So once, let's say that the stone is covered with either snakes or bugs or something that prevents her from reaching it, she will try to find a solution so she can save herself before the day is over and everything rots, her house and herself. So she will embark on a journey to find a solution. So now I have the basic idea, like the river sprite that was exiled because she loved a human being, and they married each other, and at the wedding day, after the wedding, her husband confessed that he was cursed, that he would die if he found his true love and married her, but he did it anyway. On the first morning after being a married couple, the woman wakes up and finds her husband dead in the bed. He is buried in the forest because the villagers did not want his rotten curse to spread all over the village, and the stone is placed on the grave so the curse is sealed and the forest does not perish as well. The woman goes to the stone every day because the curse had passed on her, and her house is filled with poisonous ivy that will end up killing her if she lets it. The ivy creates some rotten marks on the walls, and the identical marks are on her body. She goes to the stone, touches it, feels her husband's presence and the warmth, and she's being transported to the last moments she had with her husband, and she feels comforted by his presence there, and the curse sleeps for another day, let's say. One day the stone is unreachable for some reason, like snakes are all over the stone, and every time she tries to reach it, the snakes bite her arm or something. She embarks on a journey to find out how she can make the snakes go away. Or spiders, let's say spiders. I love spiders even more. The next part of that I have to think for my main basic story idea is how the story is going to end. So in the brainstorming process, I know where my story is going to end, and I know what questions to ask myself to get there. So at the end, what will happen? Will she manage to get the spiders or the snakes off the stone? Will she die in the process? Will she give up and rot? Will she maybe reunite with her husband at some point? And finally, I have to answer the question, how did the husband die in the first place? Let's say the first thing that she does is go to the river sprites and face that fear, and the river sprites will agree to help her if she performs a quest for them. So she does the quest, and after many hours, the curse is about to kill her, and she finds herself outside the cabin of the witch that had cursed the husband's family. And she is face to face with the witch, and the witch confesses that she was the one that placed the snakes, the spiders, on the stone because, surprise, the woman killed her own husband, and because the curse did not, the witch was mad because her curse was not fulfilled. So she placed a new curse on the woman as a punishment. Now, why did the woman kill her husband? Because he confessed that he was cursed, and she was afraid that she would die along with him. And while he was sleeping on the first night of their wedding, she killed him. Plot twist. In my head, this is a great plot twist. Maybe it is a bit predictable. And every day, the woman reached for her husband through the stone. And even though she killed her husband, all this time the husband was keeping the woman safe from the curse. With every touch and the few seconds that they had together, the man made sure that the curse would be inactive for another day. So even though she killed her, he still protected her. And to me, that is devastating, and I think it makes a great story. The woman ends up fighting with the witch, and she either does win or she doesn't win. We'll never know, or maybe we will in the next video. So that's my basic story idea. I know how the story starts, how the woman's routine is, what disrupts that routine and puts her into action, and then I know the final destination of my story and how the story will end, so I can know what questions to ask myself in the middle. I think a lot of writers block themselves because once they create the basic story idea, they think that it's final and it's cemented and in their heads, and they do not want to change anything. But that is, I think, the biggest problem of all. Like, yes, this is my story idea, but when I move on to the brainstorming process, some things may change or some things may not make sense anymore, and it's okay to change them. Don't be afraid to make changes. It's your own story, and at the end you need to create the best version of it. So don't be afraid to change your initial idea and adapt it. This was how I create my stories. In the next few videos, I will diving deeper into the story. I will ask more detailed questions. I will build the world. I will build the characters. And yes, some things may change, but this is the first thing that I came up with, and I'm happy about the story. This, to my head, reminds me of the song Ivy. It's loosely inspired by it, but I can see the parts that remind me of it, and it screams Evermore to me. So yeah, this is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you reached this part of the video, I really appreciate it. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video. There are more to come. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so you can get notified about when I post new videos. Let me know down in the comments about your writing projects, like how are they going. I hope you are doing your best. I hope you're persevering and working through all the struggles that we face every day as writers. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye.